All right, guys. So I want to talk about the spirit of the Enlightenment. Now, recently I had this big realization that the Enlightenment wasn't that bad. And I was influenced by some channels that I follow on YouTube, you know, and maybe I'm friends with, if you're watching this, then you know who you are. And, it's kind of a cliche that the Enlightenment was really bad. Mostly Christians say that, right? But I recently realized that the Enlightenment was partially a good thing. It led to the development of science, the scientific method. Well, I didn't realize this, but it kind of sunk in, right? I always knew this, but it sunk in. I basically it was much better than the Christian Dark Ages, right? So that's basically what I realized. And well, the question is, what does this have to do with homeopathy, right? So it's another thing that I actually realized that Hahnemann was actually alive and working and developed homeopathy during this period, during the 17th, 18th century Enlightenment. And so the question is, um, was he part of that movement, or was he like a remnant of the Christian Dark Ages? Where was he exactly? Now, I've thought about this. Which philosophical school does he belong to? I've thought about this a lot, and my answer is that Hahnemann belonged to the Enlightenment movement. All right. Um, Basically, his works uh, embody the scientific method. They are scientific works. He never talks about his contemporaries or his predecessors who were kind of mystics or alchemists or like Christian mystics from the Dark Ages. He never talks about those and that's on purpose, right? If you never talk about people like that, then you probably don't belong in that camp, right? So he was basically part of the Enlightenment. And of course, I've said this many times that, homeopathy actually is the pinnacle of the scientific method, pinnacle manifestation of the scientific method, because everything is based on conducting experiments in real life, and patients are treated based on information that we have based on experiments. Um, so yeah, and a lot of people are saying that Hahnemann was or are trying to make out Hahnemann to be like a Christian mystic or a New Age mystic or one of these alchemists, but all of that is false. All of that is false. He actually, the word, the word organon, which is the title of his most famous work, which is the Bible of homeopathy, called the Organon. The word organon itself comes from the Enlightenment philosophers, right? And he was involved with them. Basically, he did criticize the Enlightenment philosophers a little bit. So he was kind of saying that they're too materialistic. I think was one of his criticisms. And that is true, right? So the Enlightenment did have some problems, right? especially later on, and as we get into modern times, scientific thought is extremely materialistic, right? Um, but that doesn't mean that Hahnemann wasn't part of that movement and that the Enlightenment was all bad. The Enlightenment wasn't all bad. Actually, the Enlightenment was quite good, in my opinion, because I do think that it was better than what came before that, right? The Christian Dark Ages were worse than the Age of Enlightenment, even if they got some things wrong. The Age of Enlightenment basically emphasized science, right? The scientific method. Whatever you say about the Enlightenment, the scientific method is a good method. It does lead you to acquire truth. It is a valid method, and it's a good thing. Okay? And so, sociology, economics is another topic. It's a different topic. Maybe they didn't get a lot of things, that wasn't the greatest part of the Enlightenment. But also enlightened religion like deism is great and stuff like that. So the Enlightenment overall is an improvement on the Christian Dark Ages, where you're not allowed to criticize the Christian church or you will be killed, right? So they forced Christianity on all the nations of Europe by mass murdering a lot of the population and force converting them. And then they ushered in the Christian Dark Ages, where if you questioned them, they would kill you. So that was a horrible, horrible period for humanity, okay? And so the Enlightenment, although it gets a lot of things wrong, is still an improvement on the Christian Dark Ages. Now, getting back to homeopathy is definitely not a esoteric, mystical Christian discipline. It's definitely not. So anybody who wants to move homeopathy towards New Age stuff, mysticism, and Christian stuff like gematria and astrology and stuff like that is basically kind of contradicting the will of the founder of homeopathy, Samuel Hahnemann, who was basically the one of the greatest thinkers, of the 17th, 18th centuries, right? He is a genius, unparalleled genius, who we cannot even think about, reaching his level. I don't think we should question him. And so his will, his intention was for homeopathy to be a science based on the scientific method, a science, and no speculation, right? One of his biggest characteristics was that there is no speculation allowed. Transcendental speculation is not allowed in homeopathy. So, and then in modern times, as I've always said, in modern times, there's a bunch of people who distort homeopathy and basically just move it towards New Age and esoteric stuff, which it is not. Okay. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching.